We all know the president is important, but who is the 28th? That's right, it's Woodrow Wilson. The legacy he left behind is undoubtedly used today, but some of us just don't know it. He was considered to have been one of our nation's greatest presidents. A poll of 75 historians ranked George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Franklin Roosevelt above Woodrow Wilson in importance. Wilson's foreign policy helped shape United States foreign policy throughout the 20th century. With the Federal Reserve, he also created a new banking system. Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act, creating the Federal Reserve System. This was considered his most important domestic action. The act set the rules for regulating the nation's banks and provided the country with safer and more stable money supply. Wilson was awarded the 1919 Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts at securing peace after World War I.
Astonishing to me. He was born on December 28, 1856 in Stoughton, Virginia. He moved to Augusta, Georgia when he was about 2. He grew up in a religious home. His dad was a minister. He has a disorder, dyslexia, which makes reading and writing difficult. After high school, Woodrow Wilson attended Davidson College to be a minister, then enrolled at the College of New Jersey, and then graduated at the University of Virginia. He was married in June 1885, taught politics at Bryn Mawr College from 1885 to 1888. Then was elected president at Princeton University on June 9, 1902, and became the governor of New Jersey in 1910. Then died on February 3, 1924.
The history and the presidency of Woodrow Wilson was a major turning point for the U.S. He signed the Versailles Peace Treaty in 1919. This treaty consisted of 14 points, including free trade, self-determination, and the organization of the group called the League of Nations. The League was an organization made up of countries whose goal was to keep peace. The Senate, dominated by Republicans, rejected the signing of the Versailles Treaty. During his presidency, the Roaring Twenties and Jazz Age were periods of economic growth for America. In 1919, the 18th Amendment made the manufacture and sale of alcohol illegal. This was a prohibition. Speakeasies, or illegal drinking establishments, characterized the decade. New immigration laws restricted newcomers by a lot. The 19th Amendment in 1920 also allowed women the right to vote. The one quote that I know about Woodrow Wilson that I found astonishing was, "The present German submarine warfare against commerce is a warfare against mankind." There were 48 stars on the flag while he was president, meaning we didn't have Alaska or Hawaii quite yet, and he passed laws in his first term that ended child labor and gave workers 8-hour days.
Woodrow Wilson decided to run for governor of New Jersey on the Democratic side before he was the president. He was a fresh and new voice on the politician scene, and he won the New Jersey gubernatorial election in a landslide. As governor, Wilson brought significant economic reform to New Jersey. Woodrow Wilson went up against William Howard Taft, Eugene V. Debs, and Theodore Roosevelt, and he won the presidency against those three. Woodrow Wilson was president during 1913 to 1921 and served 2 terms. And his vice president was Thomas Riley Marshall. For a second term, he defeated his Republican opponent, Charles Evans, who had been the governor of New York and the Supreme Court justice in a close contest. In 1916, Wilson chose Louis D. Brandon as his nominee for the Supreme Court.
Did you know that Wilson wanted to be a stage performer? Neither did I. Wilson once dreamed of being a performer, and he imitated dancers and singers he saw on stage. During Wilson's presidency, Henry Ford began mass-producing automobiles. Hollywood, became the center of the movie industry while he was in office, and the kind of zipper we use today was invented in 1913. First Lady Edith Wilson was known as Mrs. President. She was also a descendant of Pocahontas. She was the only one who took messages to and from the president while he was having a stroke and was in bed. This made people angry because they thought that she was giving orders and being the president. He was the only president buried in Washington, D.C. He was also the only president to have a PhD.
While Woodrow Wilson was president, milk was about $1, now it's about $3. Woodrow Wilson and Barack Obama are both Democrats. Woodrow Wilson had 2 first wives, and Barack Obama has 1 first wife. Woodrow Wilson had a PhD and Barack Obama doesn't. Wilson made immigration harder, and Barack Obama made it easier. Wilson pushed the President's Reserve Act and established 12 regional reserve banks. While Barack Obama has been president, unemployment has decreased from 10.1% to 4.9%.